Straight Stoics, the podcast, brought to you by viastoica.com, your path to tranquility. Welcome to Street Stoics, the podcast where we discuss Stoicism, the ancient philosophy of living a good life. I'm your host, Bryce, and I'm joined by my co-host, Benny. We're here to help you apply Stoic wisdom to your everyday life, no matter what obstacles you're facing, whether it be work stress, relationship issues, or just the general ups and downs of life. Stoicism has something to offer us all. Street Stoics, a podcast, we're back with a special episode that we hope you'll be inspired by. I'm Bryce Noble. I'm here with my steady co-host, Benny Vodkin, and also joined by our special co-host, Brendan Hogel. Today, we're talking to Alberto Daniel Hill. He's an author, public speaker, and information security expert, most famously known for being the first person in Uruguay to ever be in prison for a computer hacking crime, a crime which he did not commit. His book, Log Into Hell, chronicles his crazy roller coaster ride from a promising career in the field of computer information security to the desperation of a Uruguayan prison cell in his attempt to regain his life. I talked to Alberto for WPKN Radio in early 2023, and this is a refresh of that story with an emphasis on his post-prison life philosophy and the outlook that transformed him in ways that he could not have imagined. Now, to set up his story here real briefly, in 2014, Alberto had been trying to help out his then-girlfriend to remotely access some computer systems for a government Uruguayan organization that she was working for at the time. Alberto stumbled across some huge security holes in the system and reported it to the appropriate authorities. That's where you'd think the story would end. But a few years later, something unexpected happened. Welcome, Alberto. Do I have the timing on that accurate?
Basically, it was not only one report, it was a couple of reports. And it was in 2014, as you said, that began. It's been 10 years. Oh my God, it's a long time. In 2017, in September 9, the Interpol raided my apartment. They rang the bell, and there were like 6 or 7 agents from the Interpol, and they arrested me. And that's how my nightmare starts, because I had no clue that those events that started in 2014, all with intentions that were only to help other people, I would never guess that would be the thing that triggered that ring in the bell. So that day began my nightmare. I was arrested. I was sent to prison for apparently hacking that service that I accessed in 2014, and I was from one day to another living a life without any worries, a happy life with everything. I mean, I couldn't be more happy. It was probably the moment in my life where I felt like, in the highest moment of my life, probably, as you said, when it comes to relationship, health, economically, I was really in a position that I never thought that I was going to be. I was doing extremely good. I mean, one day I was in that position, and one day after that, I was in a cell, freezing, with an asthma attack, with an anxiety attack, and shaking in a cell, not knowing what was going on, and I was completely lost. So for me, it was like it was like a nightmare. It was like, this cannot be happening. How yesterday I was having everything, and right now I don't have anything. They took away my freedom, and when you don't have freedom, you don't have the option to choose anything. All you can choose is what's on your mind, what you think, because everything else is being decided by other people that have the control over you, and that is terrible.
Yeah, let me summarize a little bit and keep it moving. Yeah, so you just you reported these. It was to the internet. Was it to the internet? Who did you report that to?
No, I reported it to the government, to the CERT.
The government. Okay, the government, right? That there was some sort of a problem at an admin level with this remote access to these facilities that had to do with healthcare, which is kind of important, right? Government related. and he thought he did the right thing. And then just he got a knock on the door one day. He gets handcuffed and taken away. And like he said, next thing you know, he's in a cell. He doesn't know what's going on. He's being accused of a crime, right? They're going to start accusing you here of a crime. You're separated from your mother. You're separated from your girlfriend. So it's all kind of, you just think this is a nightmare, right? Like somehow, and I never asked you before, do you think, oh, this is going to get cleared up? This is a mistake and I'm going to be going home soon? Or did those thoughts cross your head like those when you were first put in prison?
At that moment when I was freezing in that cell, I was thinking, okay, there's actually no reason for me to be here. There must be a mistake. Tomorrow maybe I will be home. I was really convinced of that. I was thinking, okay, this is it. It's just a very bad day. It was probably the worst day of my life, but it can be more than that. Tomorrow I will surely be home. That's what I was thinking, but I was wrong.
And then from there, right, so you realize, hey, you're not going home. They're accusing you of these crimes. They got you. They're questioning you, asking you a whole bunch of specifics. And at that point, right, you're understanding the nature of what they're trying to say that you did. You realize, right, you're not going to be getting out anytime soon. And so you have to go through, right, those emotions of and the physical, right? You said you're shaking, and it's like you've never been in trouble in your life, right? To that point, you'd never experienced that, and I think the people listening can imagine just somebody knocking on your door and taking you away and accusing you of all these things, and you're thinking it's going to be okay and you're going to be out of there. It's a mistake, and then realizing no, they're going to hold you on for longer, right? And so it gets to a point where, like, you call a lawyer, you put these things together, you're trying to sort it out, right? And then What did the lawyer tell you? What was like his first response to you as you're kind of waiting to figure out what's going on?
Yeah, okay. This was a process that was extremely fast, and that is a point that, I would probably like to extend a little bit because of the consequences of this kind of processes in this country. Okay, the lawyer, when he met me, the first thing is that, okay, it's okay, Alberto. Don't worry. You will be home, released. You will release today or tomorrow. Don't worry. My lawyer was a judge in criminal cases here in Uruguay, and he quit 4 months before he became my defendant. He quit as a judge, and he became to work as a lawyer for a bureau of lawyers here in Uruguay, a very important one. So he really knew how the system worked. He really knew what what those kind of cases would be treated like. He knew the judge. He knew everything about the system, and he was convinced that I was going to be released that day or the day after that. That was what he transmitted to me in the first contact, and that for me was like, wow, okay, that's great. But yeah, again, I thought something that was going to be okay. This is the end, but I was wrong. That didn't happen. The night after that happened in the afternoon, and then during almost the night, he came to me and he said, Alberto, the judge defined that you should go to prison, preventive prison. And he was like, it was very weird. It was really hard for him to articulate those words. It was like he couldn't believe. I could actually see in his eyes that he was not faking the way he was expressing that to me. And when I was hearing those words, for me it was like, I don't know, it was like a complete shock. I was trying to hold back the tears, but I couldn't. I still can feel falling those tears from my eyes. That feeling is something I will never forget. My body shaking and my mind thinking, no, okay, this is it. This is the end. I will not be home tomorrow. And not only that, if I go to prison, will not go back to my house anymore. They will kill me. It would be hell. I won't survive a day in a prison in Uruguay. So I was complete shock, paralyzed, and well, I was sent to prison. Uh, and I don't know, it was something that for me, I can remember those moments, but I cannot remember much more because I put my mind my mindset was like, okay, I didn't want to think. I didn't want to think, so I blocked a lot of things that probably happened from my mind. My mind was like in a standby mode because processing that would drive me crazy. I would collapse. So yeah, that was what I experienced in that moment. It was really something I will never forget.
Yeah, and this is all documented too. I didn't mention at first, Alberto is an author, right? He wrote a book on the back end of coming out of this experience, and there's other details about his experience. The lead up to his arrest and the trial, and what was going through the botched, the fumbling and bumbling, right? Because that was done. Is that your case was botched, like your legal representation was marginal. They didn't. This is high tech crime. The people that built evidence against you was not well researched, and it was probably defensible to some degree. But you didn't have a defense attorney that could lean into that and have it work in your favor at all, right? There was just just a series of terrible things, right? And the name of the book is Log into Hell, and we'll revisit that again. But there's more details there. But I want to keep moving through the story. So it didn't work out at your trial. It was mishandled. There's evidence there that probably should exonerate you that just didn't get seen or didn't get understood. Next thing you know, you're in jail, right? You got sentenced. And so you were talking a minute ago about how I don't think I could survive, a night in a Uruguayan jail. I'm going to be attacked or hurt or harmed. What did you do mentally, like maybe even philosophically, to try to hold it all together? What did you tell yourself kind of to get through your time there?
It was extremely, extremely hard for my mind to be in those moments of my mind. Was like, okay, I was trying to not to think. I remember I was staring at the wall in order to have my eyes looking at something that was not generating any kind of activity in my brain. I was trying to paralyze my brain in some way because, that was all I could do. I didn't know, what to say, what to do, what was going to happen. It was something like you get a ticket to a destination that is completely unknown, but it's scary, it's like hell, literally. And what do you do with that? I would probably have had a heart attack or a collapse if I was thinking about all that deeply and visualizing and anticipating what was going to happen to me and what was going to be entering into a prison. If I was thinking about that, I would probably have collapsed or have had any kind of attack, heart attack or anything like that. So my mind was put in blank. I tried to freeze my brain and not to think about anything. So I was like just looking at the wall. That was initially how I behaved in terms of, okay, what do I do? I couldn't much. I could only control my mind, and I decided, okay, stop thinking. That was my reaction.
Right. Okay. Yeah. What you could control versus what you couldn't. Right. And so in the meantime, right. So you're spending time in jail. We'll get to the point where you've served your time. It was about 8 months, I think, that you ended up serving right before you were able to get out. Yeah. But during that meantime, right, it's like, okay, you've lost your job, right? Your girlfriend at the time did not stick around. There was a lot of trauma for her, right? That it was just too difficult for her to handle all those things. So she had left. And one thing I always like to point out is Alberto's mother, right? She was making heroic efforts in the background to try to get you out, right? Whatever she could do. And so your family's suffering. I mean, you're suffering, but you don't think about sometimes the family or the people attached to you when you disappear into a situation like that, the confusion and why is my son in jail? Why is my boyfriend in jail? All these types of things. And then the people that worked with you, right? So that was all happening in the background. How was your mother holding up and those people? What else was happening outside of you until you got released?
Well, so many things, right? You mentioned my family, and at that moment, my family was my mom, and my mom's family was me. It was her and me, and my mother, who was in her late 60s at the time, was suffering from a lot of health problems, and she was left alone. My very best friend at that moment basically contacted me the first days, and after that, I never heard from him again. I mean, after a few days in prison that he contacted me, and then he disappeared. He vanished from my life. And I remember that the last thing that I told him was, I won't mention his name, but I told him, please, all I ask you is, please, make sure that my mom is okay. And that was all that I asked who I thought he was my very best friend. And those were my last words to him, take care of my mom. And he disappeared, so then it was only my mother left outside to handle all the things that were going to be to happen in order to continue with the process and actually eventually then set me free and get me out of prison. But it was only my mother with all her problems, struggling with nobody supporting her. And yeah, if it wasn't because of her, I don't know, I would probably have still been in prison. So my mother is probably if it wasn't because of her, I wouldn't be here talking with you guys. That I have absolutely no doubt.
Yeah, and I've had the pleasure to talk to his mom briefly, side conversation. She's a wonderful woman, and there's a story just behind her and what she tried to do, and kind of a love of a mother for her son. That's really touching, right? I even get a little teary thinking about it now. It's heartbreaking, right? And so to keep going through the story, because there's a lot there. Again, it's outlined in his book. That you do get through the prison sentence. You're there. You shouldn't be there. You know you shouldn't be there. And now that you're exiting prison right after 8 months, and so you walk out of there. And the line that I said before is that you were armed only with your cell phone and really nothing else. Your relationships were damaged. You had the Interpol had confiscated personal items from you, and right. They even took some of it. Was it like your even your access to some of your financials, right, through some of the items that you had, right? I don't know if it's a cold wallet, whatever you had exactly, right? But you had so financial, you had money, right, in Bitcoin and things like that, and those keys essentially were part of what were confiscated and never returned to you, right, with no explanation. Is that correct? When you exited prison?
That is correct. Basically, in terms of financially, how this affected to me was basically being in a position where I was without any economical problems. I was having probably worth at that point about around more than $1 million in assets linked to different cryptos. So I was like, okay, I was thinking when I was released from prison, okay, now, okay, let's say, thank God I have all these savings in order for me to survive and okay, in order for me to continue with my life with that backup, in order not to worry about the money for some time and continue with my life professionally with that support of that money that I made, not because of luck, because of a lot of research, study, and taking a lot of risks that, okay, at the end, they made me be able to gain a lot of profits from those investments in cryptos. But then I realized that that more than $1 million were nowhere, as you said, no explanations. So I was from being, I hate saying this, but from being a millionaire to being a person without any money. And that was really another punch in the face in this story. It was really hard for me to actually having a life where all of my life I never had any financial problem economically. And I never, I always had everything I needed. I never struggled. I mean, my family never ever had to ask for a loan. We were never in debt. We were living really a life without any kind of financial problems. So I was living 42 years of my life like that. And when I was 42, I realized that I had zero. I had no money at all to pay my bills. And that was pretty shocking. I mean, you spend all of your life in certain way, and then you realize that no, your life is going to change. And that was pretty hard. But again, the mindset is like, okay, I cannot control that. I cannot do anything to get that money that disappear. But life continues. Okay, don't complain. Don't just move on, Alberto. What's on my mind? Move on, keep moving. It's gone, but that's it. Let's move on. And I move on.
Yeah, I mean, that's there's not easy to say, right? But I mean, just absorbing the story and Brendan and Benny with me here, we gave them the opportunity to ask a couple questions before we move on to your afterlife. Because we don't want to focus on just the event, right? But the event itself is important to understand because it sets the foundation for who you are now and what's happened since then.
Yeah, thanks. And it's great to hear your story. It's just fascinating, Alberto. And I wanted to know, like, there's this famous quote by Seneca, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And I just wanted to see, like, because you were talking about before going into prison and while you were there, and I wanted to see how your actual experience matched with what you thought was going to happen or how you viewed it in those early stages and getting that sentence. I don't know if you wanted to elaborate a bit on that.
Yeah, of course. Okay, as I said, I thought I was going to die. Yeah, I thought, okay, I will probably not be able to be there more than a day before I die. And then after getting released, okay, I realized that I infer that it's something that every human being has the ability. We can adapt to situations, context that we are not used to, that are completely new to us, that are completely, mysterious, that we know nothing, that we are not, we have never been into that, we have never imagined those scenarios. It's like they grab you from your apartment or your country where you live all of your life, and the next day you are in a culture or a country that you had no idea about. Micronesia, to put the name of a country that I don't know if it's it or not, but I don't know what is Micronesia. It's like you're completely put that in a place where you have to, all you have to do is, okay, you have to survive. But then leads me back to another point. During that process in prison, I said that initially I blocked my mind. I tried to not to think about anything. But then you realize after, it took me 2 weeks more approximately to realize that, okay, I cannot keep like this. And at that point, I had to make a decision. I had to either, say, okay, I throw the towel. I won't keep doing this. Or I have to say, okay, I will adapt to this, and I will get out of here. Yeah, no matter what it takes, I will get out of here. I won't let this destroy me. Or you decide, this is destroying me. I cannot deal with this. And I have to say something that I don't know if you want to include or not, but suicide rates in prisons in Uruguay, and I think all over the world is the same, are 10 times higher than suicide rates outside the prisons in this country. And I really understand why those rates are like that. Being in prison is really challenging, and many people took the decision of throwing the towel, and I completely understand. It crossed my mind. I cannot keep living like this. This is like this is not life, and this is endless. The day was endless. It was really something that many people decided, okay, I don't want to continue this, or you said, no, I will continue. Yeah, I will continue. And that is like a click, a switch in your mind, and you kind of program your mind in order to, the objective is get out of there, survive, okay, do whatever it takes in order to stay healthy, be safe, and well, wait and be calm, and well, try to survive there, interacting in a context that is plenty of violence, things that are not very nice. That in my case, I am a person who is not violent, who has never been in a criminal context or environment. Was very, I imagine a person who was all of his life in front of a computer, and from one day to another was in front of people that were having knives, fighting, blood every day, fights. Well, it was something complicated, but I took the decision of, okay, I will help myself, and then I think I started mastering the art of acting, and yeah, you know, there's this rule, the golden rule, I think it is, that it is treat others the way you want to be treated. But then I learned there's another rule that is, I don't know, the platinum, titanium or something rule that says treat others the way they want to be treated. And that is the rule that I realized you should appear in prison. Treat the others the way they want to be treated. And that was one of basically the key elements that made me survive in that context. And at the end, I look back and yeah, it was two weeks probably of that mind completely blank and frozen. And then, okay, I started accepting the things the way they are. I couldn't modify anything, and following the rules. And it wasn't that bad. I mean, days were, endless, but we're passing by. But
it's amazing, right? And if you read his book, he goes into some detail too about, like, because he was arrested as kind of this high-end hacker, he was given a lot of respect by default in prison, and that actually helped him out, right? He was seen as this guru and this mystical computer person, and actually some of the prisoners looked up to him and thought, well, maybe he can help me do some other schemes when I get out and things like that. So in a weird way, what he got arrested from actually probably buffered some of the problems he could have had if he was arrested for some other crime. So that's fascinating, and there's so much depth to that story, right? That's in his book. But I want to, in the interest of time, Alberto, and I really the rebuilding story is what we're trying to focus on. And you talked about how your philosophy of it just kind of took over, right? Benny asked that question about what you thought it would be versus what it worked out to be, and you just went into a different mode. You said, I have to survive, and you numbed yourself and then kind of moved forward day by day. Now, so when you're released from prison, right, and you're basically starting over from scratch, but as now a convicted felon, having no money, you don't have your girlfriend relationship, you've got bills, you don't have this job. Mentally, you're wounded as well, going through that experience. What were those first steps towards, getting control again? How did that feel going home? And did you feel, what were going through your mind those early days of freedom again? And then how did you frame your mind to start building yourself back up?
Yeah, that's an amazing process. When I look back to that moment, okay, when I was getting out of the prison in a van, and without handcuffs, was for me like, okay, wow. I was feeling like I was dead there. I was like a zombie, and then I recovered my life, and I had freedom. And then you realize that so many things in life that we take for granted, that we never question, are so beautiful, and we can not have them. But people think that no, they're there forever, and you cannot, I mean, yeah, I don't know, walking in the street and look up and see the sky instead of seeing bars. Wow, that is beautiful. That is amazing. And well, from having when you lose the freedom, as I said, you lose everything. All you can control is what you think. Well, then you can control much more things, despite of not having money, despite of having your health, mental health, physical health, emotionally, and in every level, being hurt, being affected in a negative way. But still, you have so many choices that you can in your hands. That from having no choices to having so many things that are probably stupid things for most of the people, for me it was like, wow, I am alive again. This is amazing. And I didn't have much, as you said. I have a cellular probably, the closest I had, and that's it. But that was a lot. And I was very happy. I was like in a state of, I don't know, it was like an ecstasy for me. Yeah, I imagine people watching me from another perspective, seeing me and saying, what's wrong with this guy? Is he on drugs or something? I mean, he has nothing, and he's like shining, like full of energy. And so, I don't know, like, I can imagine that. It's amazing. But for me, it was extremely happy the moment I was released. And then what's going to happen next? Society. How's going to society wait for me? How society is going to treat me? Are they going to treat me as a criminal? I don't know. And that was something that for me was okay. Let's see. I have no idea. I have no idea what would happen in the future in terms of entering again into society. And well, that was something that was not bothering me. But I have to say, despite of that excitement and so being so happy after being released, in me, there was always in me a feeling of anger, hate, feeling of revenge. A lot of negative thoughts and feelings were always around me during all that time. I was full of those feelings, hate against the system, hate against the people that were involved in that, hate for a lot of things, anger. So a lot of negative feelings were around me for a long time. That was basically how I was released from prison, how I felt.
And Alberto, thank you so much for sharing this and walking through this story with us. It's really fascinating and insightful. And Bryce really teed it up quite nicely. I'm very interested. You mentioned you got out, and of course, understandably enough, you have this resentment and this anger towards the government, the system, etc. And that's completely reasonable, right? But like, how did you speak to yourself, and how did you talk to yourself through that so that you didn't hang on to those things, or maybe you are still hanging on to them? So can you just talk about that a little bit?
Of course, because that is a main. That question that you're asking me is basically describing the person that I am now. Is that process from all those feelings of anger, revenge, hate, and much more things towards certain peoples, the system, the government. Those feelings actually, I started the frustration also, because in the media, my image was completely destroyed. They published all kind of things that were terrible. I mean, they painted me as the worst cyber criminal, cyber terrorist on earth. I was the worst person that was in Uruguay. And I was out. I said, now I can talk. Now I can say my side of the story can be known. So everybody in Uruguay knew about my story because it was on the cover of every newspaper, of every on the TV news. Now it's my time for me to say what happened for people to know. And I started contacting the most important journalists, people from TV shows in my country, and they all knew about my case. They knew about Alberto the hacker, but they they actually, I met all of them, all of the most important ones in my country. We have conversations, and all of them said, wow, that's a hell of a story, Alberto. Okay, we will process this and we will get back to you. Okay, nobody ever get back to me. Nobody ever wanted to, give me an interview. And I was like, what's going on here? I was the media actually, because of a press release of the police, destroyed me, doxed me, and painted me as the worst of the worst. And now I am out, and I don't have any. I cannot actually say this. I mean, my version of the story. This is really not fair. I cannot accept this. What do I do? Okay, I was always a person very private. Before this episode, you Google my name, and you will get no match, no results, nothing. But after this, you will Google my name, and you will probably find more. I will find more information about me than what I know about me out there. And okay, I said, holy luck. Yeah, initially it was like F, and then wow. Okay, this is terrible. No, it's terrible. Yeah, but come on, this is probably, I can use this in another way instead of, okay, I am dogs, I'm destroyed. No, I am known. People know me. Okay, I have a name. Okay, people might be interested in me. I have the cellular that I left prison with as my most valuable asset. That device in my hand. I have Twitter. Okay, in my country, they don't want to listen to me. Okay, maybe Zimbabwe has only 3 million people. Maybe there are 7-8 billion people out there that are willing to listen to my story. So, okay, I started to be active on social networks, and I started initially expressing all those feelings of hate and anger in those places. Mostly in Twitter. And I was expressing that in that way. Were feelings that were really strong, that were basically consuming me. I was aware that those feelings were not going to help me continue with my life and recovering, would actually destroy me instead of reinventing me. But that lasted for years. They were vanishing slowly, but those feelings were always part of me. It was something that really I couldn't get out of those, even though I was aware that, okay, feeling like this, wanting revenge, it's not a way to continue with my life or to start from where I was and, okay, I move on. The process of accepting what happened, I cannot change it. Learn the lessons from the experience and move on, not looking back, but using what I learned to do as experience that is valuable. Well, that wasn't easy. Accepting was not easy. Accepting having lost millions of dollars that in that moment were $1 million. Right now, probably they're worth. And right now, honestly, doesn't hurt me in the stomach when I say it. It's probably worth $10 million with the current prices of Bitcoin, for example. Yeah, and really, when I say I have lost, if I hadn't had that experience, I would have probably $10 million now in assets, and I don't feel bad when I say it right now. I am very happy right now where I am talking to you guys. I don't feel any kind of ouch when I say, about economically that. But that took a long time. Took many years, probably until 2022, January 2022, that the case was closed. It took many years struggling, and believe me, going through this process is really exhausting. Consuming all your energies is really something that is killing people. It's killing you as a person. So when the case was closed, and actually at the end, okay, No, I mean, I was.
Well, let's get to that. I want to just recap it a bit and then catch back up about the closing of the case and, the findings and what's happened since then. But you're just going through, right? You're going through that process of just reassimilating back into society and really struggling to do that and trying to find some footing. And you're kind of you're infamous, right? As you're the first hacker in Uruguay ever sent to prison for a computer crime. And so nobody really is wanting to hear your side of the story, right? And so that you're, as you're kind of limping along here and just trying to regain your life day by day, you kind of reach out and say, I got to get out and get this story out in different ways. And that's when you got out into social media and going out to the internet, right? You're armed with your cell phone. And so that's where you try to get some traction and get more people talking about it, correct?
Correct, but they say three people abnormally in the life of a person. I heard that there are three people that actually define have an impact in your life that is a point of inflection to your life. One of those three people was a person named who goes by the name of Shaq Resider. He runs a podcast about hacking stories. He has this podcast. I'm pretty sure that is the number one podcast about that topic. It's very recognized. It's a person who is doing an amazing show. He's very talented. And in 2018, he was nobody. Basically, he was doing a podcast as a hobby. He wasn't making any money. Actually, he was putting money to do that. And I came across in Twitter to his profile, and I will never forget that. I think it still has the same description in his bio. It says, something like, I want to hear a good hacker story. And I said, this guy wants to hear a good hacker story. And I felt like so like I wanted to punch him in the face and say, you want a good hacker story? I saw a good hacker story for you, And I contacted that guy, and I was very angry because he was like, you want a good hacker story? I have one. And I wasn't aware of what I was doing at that moment, what contacting that person would mean for me in the future. And I sent him a mail describing my story shortly. And then I replied, and he said, okay, let's talk about it. Sounds interesting. Okay. And then he created an episode about my case, my story. It's episode 25 of Tanner Diaries. And okay, it was published on November 1st, 2018. Okay, that changed completely my life in terms of visibility, getting known. After that, the podcast was published. Okay, I couldn't believe it. I hate it, but I was like a rock star. I was like, oh, Alberto, the guy from Uruguay. Yeah, basically overnight when that was published, it wasn't like a Hollywood movie, but okay, let's say that for me was like that. I was like, I became a celebrity in the world because, I mean, up to now, I think that podcast was heard more than 1 million times. But in November of that year, more than 40,000 people listened to it from all over the world. Wow! And I got the visibility. I started getting contact with a lot of people. Messages. My Twitter followers started to increase exponentially. Wow! My story was known. And all of the people were, oh, Alberto, I cannot believe what happened to you. That is crazy. That is loco. And everybody supporting me. Can you believe, guys, that not a single person actually said, oh, you motherfucker, you criminal. I'm sorry, motherfucker. You criminal. Yeah, no, nobody. Everybody was supporting me. I mean, they could not believe my story. When in my country, everybody wanted to cover me, to keep me without voice. Okay, those people that listen to my story were all supporting me, all very upset about what happened to me, angry towards the government. And I was like, wow, this is I think that I can use this visibility in order to reach much more with this. And yeah, I don't know, Bryce, if you want to stop here and move to other point or, okay.
No, yeah, but I do, because a lot more good stuff coming. So again, it's Darknet Diaries, right, which is a very popular podcast now, and that episode that Alberto's talking about, right, where he couldn't get any traction, anybody to listen or hear his story, so he started reaching out to the internet. He finds this podcast that's not well known at the time, but has since blown up. And I think you said, right, that your episode's been listened to maybe 1 million times or more. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. But that is relative, those numbers. Actually, the reach in terms of that story, it's probably much more than that. I mean, people can download MP3 and copy to other people. So it's very relative. I mean, the numbers of plays, how it is measured in comparison to how many people actually heard your story from the beginning to the end. Yeah, so those numbers are, I don't know how accurate they are.
It's still impressive though, the reach though, and you got that voice right, and so now people are. I say now, but you're getting people to pay attention to you now. You're getting some feedback. There's enough people are hearing it, and now you're getting traction, right?
Exactly, traction. And then what happened? Well, I don't believe in accidents. I don't believe in coincidences. And then the person answered me and said, "Hi, Alberto, how are you? You know, I know your story, and I'm about to speak about your story in this conference, in the CCC conference in Germany at the end of the year. And yeah, I would like to ask you, Alberto, would you mind recording a small video of 30 seconds with a message for the people in the audience? That I don't know, anything that you feel free to record, whatever you want, any message. And by the way, can you give me a copy of those reports that you sent to the government about the incident? I would like to include them in my talk in this conference." When I read that, I said, "What? I read an article about psychology, and this person is going to speak about my case in Germany. What? What's going on? This is. Am I dreaming?" Again, I was thinking, this is so strange. I mean, I was like shocked, and I said, okay, who was that person? That person was a person who is Linus Newman. That person was is still in charge of the CCC, the Chaos Computer Club of Germany, that is probably one of the most relevant hacking groups in the world. December of 2018, my story was told in that conference. It was a feature. It was something that was featured in that event. It was called "Never Underestimate the Stupidity of Law Enforcement." It was my story told in 7 minutes. They can make long story short, not by me. And well, basically they were making fun of the police in a very nice way, showing how, with a lot of it contains a lot of irony, sarcasm, and basically they're making fun, saying, "This is stupid. I mean, look at this policeman in Uruguay. This is crazy." And we have Alberto here with us to talk about this. And that was in German, in the German version of the video stream. 500,000 people viewed the video in German, in German language on YouTube. In the conference, there were like 20,000 people watching that live. In English, there were like, 50,000 views. There was also in French and in Spanish. So I was like, okay, we shall reside and Darknet Diaries. I was like, wow, I am a star. And then I realized, wow, what happened? I was like, come on, slow down. This is, yeah.
Let me stop you there. It's a crazy railroad ride. I know Benny has another question, and just to bring it back to the philosophical kind of angle, that you're out of prison. and it's like you're struggling, and then it's like, hey, I'm going to stay resilient, right? So you're reaching out, you do the podcast thing that kind of blows up, and you didn't expect it, and then you're connected with this person on Twitter who was a heavyweight in Germany, and now your story is getting broadcast all over the world. And during this time, I was thinking, like from a Stoic's perspective, you got those cardinal virtues of courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom. You had to have some courage, right? And then some wisdom to kind of navigate these things, but with that temperance too, that kind of that patience, right? That's really, to me, that's coming out of your story, and you're trying and you're reaching out, and you've got no luck, and then all of a sudden your message is being heard all over the world. And now you've got some traction and you're moving forward. Now, Benny, you had another question for Alberto's before we go on.
Yeah, and it ties perfectly in with this, and connecting it with the philosophical and also the psychological point that you were making, Alberto. And because apart from the fame and apart from being in front of all these audiences and everything, how did expressing and sharing your story with all these people, and instead of being hated or at least despised, as you mentioned, from the people in Uruguay, how did this change you mentally, and how did it help you kind of build that resilience to keep going and create your philosophy to keep going ahead? How did that help you?
Okay, I have to tell you, my first thought was, wow, I am being able to reach this and express my story like this, but hold on, how about all these people, all those Alberto Hills in the past that maybe probably live situation like mine, and nobody knows anything about them because they probably went to prison, were arrested, went to prison, were released, and they just never spoke about anything. And yeah, I am pretty sure that they also having people living those situations in the past before me are very likely to be possible. I'm sure that there are not a lot, but there are people that have been through that and nobody knows anything about them. Maybe in Uruguay, maybe in other countries, I don't know. But the frustration, how could those people live like that? Without actually expressing their version of the story, how can they keep that to themselves? And for me, being in that position of shouting out to 8 billion people in the world, my story was like, wow, I could get out of me all that frustration, all that, that was completely held inside of me. Well, I could get out of me all that anger, that hate, all those things that I wanted everybody to know when I was basically muted, with a button muted in my country. No, you cannot speak, mute. Well, then I could shout out to the world, not to 3 million people, but to 8 million people. My story, for me, was like a relief, a feeling of, wow, yes, this is wonderful. I cannot imagine having lived my life without this possibility. It would really be, I think that, I don't know, I would be completely ruined, with a depression. I don't know, I would be in a clinic probably, psychologically destroyed, not being able to do anything. I would be really, I don't know, crazy. I cannot imagine not having had the chance of taking out of me all of the things that I wanted to say. Yeah, for me it was really probably the best thing in terms of my mental health journey because of this. The best thing that happened to me was being able to actually express myself and take out of me all of those things that I wanted to say and I couldn't in my country do it. Well, I was really gratified, and as Bryce said, one thing that I have to admit, that not to brag, but okay, the determination and the discipline of not, okay, I will do this, and I post a tweet for a month, and then, okay, nothing's happening, okay, nothing will happen, nothing will change, everything will not. It was like, no, I will change. I know, okay, I will keep doing it. I will keep tweeting and retweeting I will keep exposing these things. I will keep posting these problems because, okay, when we have a problem in front of us, if we want to solve that problem, what do? We talk about it. Otherwise, it's not a problem because if you don't talk about that, there's no problem to solve. So, yeah, speaking is the first step in order to change something that is wrong, to correct that, something that is affecting people, that is not working the way it should be, that is unfair. Okay, you talk about it. I was able to talk about it, and I was able to have millions and probably, millions of people listening to that problem. So, wow, that's a powerful way of actually pushing pressure towards certain things to change. It's not like I appear in a radio in Uruguay that is listened by 10 people sharing my story. That doesn't change anything. Nobody will pay attention to that.
And so you're continuing just to beat that drum over and over again. You want somebody to connect with your story. You're getting more interviews. I found Alberto in probably 2021, something like that. And at that point, you were starting to put your thoughts down in writing, and you wrote this book, right? Log Into Hell, that we've talked about. So you got that out there. You want to get your story out there. People are contacting you. Maybe they want to make your story into something. And then, so you're starting to get pieces of your life back together, right? And it's through your patience and resiliency, knowing what you control, what you can't, moving forward, doing the best you can with what you have. And that's what this story really is about. And it seems so little, but what it starts to become is much, much, much bigger, to the point where I want to talk about, Alberto, that you have your book out and you're starting to sell that a little bit, and you get contacted further, right, to go speak at a conference in Argentina. Why don't you tell me about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I was being contacted by a lot of people from different podcasts, and they invited me. Actually, the year after this person in Germany talked about my case, I was invited to speak there. So I was able to actually share my story in front of a camera, being heard by and viewed by, and again, hundreds and thousands of people. In that, this probably is considered the second most important hacking or cybersecurity conference in the world after DEFCON. So it's a huge deal. I mean, being able, basically I started playing in, I don't know, topics that are very, very strict when it comes to selecting the speakers. Wow. And I found myself speaking in front of, 3,000 people in a stage of my story. And again, it was a 50 minutes talk, and I cannot make long story short. So that moment I did it. I don't know how, it was magical. Yeah. And you know what? People, it's normal that when it comes to speaking in public, some people freak out, some people have fear, some people feel uncomfortable. I was one of the people that was really not able to speak, to say a word in front of other people when I was 20. And well, with practice and knowing that doing that, if I didn't force myself to do it, it would be a limit for me in my career. I wouldn't be able to reach as far as I wanted if I didn't deal with that problem of speaking in public. And speaking in front of 3,000 people in Argentina, for me, was like, I didn't realize I was speaking in front of 3,000 people. I was telling the story that was from my brain and my heart together, expressed through my words in my mouth. And wow, with so much passion that I didn't even realize. I mean, I was having so much fun and was so happy telling my story there. Fear, panic. No, I was so happy. I was like a child in a park. Yeah, the point is that I don't think that all this evolution from nobody with a cellular to somebody who was invited and paid for everything to be in the most important events in this field, it changed me as a person. I think that is something that is interesting. Right now, I mean, I live a very humble life. Economically, I'm not. I'm broken, to be honest, and I have a problem to say that. But I don't know, I didn't change in terms of my values, in terms of my integrity. I was very tempted to say, well, Alberto, why don't you do this and this and this, and you make fortune with your knowledge? No, that's not me. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I could perfectly do it, but I will never do it because that's not me. I prefer to starve with living on the streets rather than doing what you're telling me I should do. No, that's not me. So,
Right.
yeah.
But that's what's powerful, I think, about your story. We're almost caught up to current times. So there's a lot here, and it's just a fascinating story, right? And interesting to explore, but it's kind of living, virtuously, just being a good man, and your values got rearranged, right? You go into prison more of kind of this a man of the world and all the things that I have. You come out with very little, and so what's important, right? It was a love of your mom and being free, and then just the ability to try to build back and just being patient. That's amazing to your story, is that you hit some absolute home runs, grand slams, people hearing you, and you're becoming to a point now you're speaking on a stage, and maybe next to DEF CON, right, is the biggest hacker conference in the world. And you were a guy who would have never sniffed that stage before then, even though you were a professional in information security, right? And so I want to get before we get to Brendan here, just catch up your story even more, so you're to more current times and important developments, right? As it related to your case. So you're getting known now. Your book's been out. It's just more and more is happening, right? And so you want to revisit your case, right? And how did you go to prison in the first place? And it was maybe the laws were bad, and maybe the process was bad, right? So something happened here most recently after that conference, right? You got informed that there were some people inside of Uruguay, right? Some lawyers that were looking into your case and wanted to change the way the law is, right, based on your case. Is that right?
Well, basically, while all this story that I told you was happening, in parallel, something else was happening related to that I wasn't aware of. I mean, I was telling you the story from my shows, but there was, in parallel, something linked directly to my story that I wasn't aware was happening, and it was that all that noise that I was making, all those events, all that people talking about my case, all those OSHs in cybersecurity, following me in Twitter, sending me messages of support. Okay, basically that noise was no noise, was actually a lot of pressure for a government, and in parallel, something was changing in my country in terms of the way technology-related crimes were being investigated and prosecuted. And yeah, they were doing some changes that at the end of 2021 happened. At the end of 2021, 2021. At the end of 2021, at the end of 2022, after DEF CON, somebody contacted me, as you said. My case was not only known in Uruguay, it was known in many countries of the region. And basically, they told me, Alberto, you know what? We are in these groups of study of criminology in Argentina, in this master's degrees about blah, 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 and related to computer crimes. And you know what? Whenever we have a meeting or talking, there's one case that always is being brought to the table. And you know what? Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, Alberto, your case. I knew, yeah. Initially, I would say, oh my God, are you kidding? At this point, it's like, oh yeah, doesn't surprise me. Yeah, really? Okay. So Alberto, you know what? The people that were, in charge of the investigation of your case, the person you reported the problem to the government initially, and the people that were the expert witness for the case, for the talking to the judge, all those top people were former. I call them the club of the former director of of security of Interpol, the former director of the CERT of Uruguay, the former director of security of presidency of Uruguay. They are no longer in their charges. Yeah, they have all been removed. Now there's a new structure there's a cybersecurity unit that has been established in Uruguay with professionals that have been trained to perform those activities, and they are being the person in charge of that is the prosecutor of cybercrime that knows your case pretty well, and that change, was basically triggered by your case, Alberto.
So your case is known even by the criminal justice system, right? And they've been talking about in the background, you never even knew it. And so they started the process now of changing case law and how they prosecute people, not just in Uruguay, but with other countries in South America. And so really that's the match, right? That's the fuse that's lit, is that now going forward, right, as they're continuing to do these things, and this is happening, I think, currently, is that people will not have to go through what you went through potentially based on what happened to you, right? Because your name was eventually essentially cleared, right? That's the final piece of that, right? Your case is kind of wiped off the books, right? Or is that correct? Or there's some relief, right, for your case?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a huge relief. It's something that for me, okay, I lost a lot in all those things that I said, economically, physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. The losses were like, I went bankrupt in all those fields, and I'm still struggling with my mental health issues that were because of the situation I have to live, post-traumatic stress disorder, deep depression. I've been on treatment for several years. I'm on treatment. I still have my highs and my lows. Sometimes, life is not easy with this problem. But so the price I paid was really, really, really was very expensive. But the reward of know that what you did actually is something that will help a lot of people, and so many people will probably we will have the opportunity to have a fair process, treated in a fair way in a system that was cruel, that was completely unfair, that was completely lacking of any guarantees, that was not following any good practice related to investigation of those kind of crimes. Okay, now because of all the things that I have to suffer, people are able, effective January 1st, 2022, to, if they unfortunately have to go through an investigation and then being prosecuted for a crime related to technology, they are going to be having guarantees of a fair process. People competent in the area will be studying that case, investigating. So, that is a beautiful gift that is worth all the losses that I experienced, because I realized that it's not about me. Life, as I heard many times in your spaces, what's going to be, we will all die, and it doesn't matter if we had like a trillion cars, the latest Lamborghini, a house in Malibu. That's when we die. That's it. That is completely irrelevant. But what if when you die, then you die, but then you leave something for other people in future generation that is basically your child, is something that you build. That feels so good that I probably don't have a Lamborghini. I don't have a house in Malibu, but I have this gratifying, this happiness of knowing that I did something that is going to help so many people. That is an example of somebody who is like everybody else. I'm not a Superman. I'm an average person that was able to do a change in something that, as you said, was almost impossible to change. It was, why waste so much time, effort, in that? Why waste your time with that? You will never change that. Okay, I'm a stubborn, and if you really have the determination to do it, uh, yeah, I mean, I will probably do it because I'm a hacker, and you never tell a hacker you cannot hack this because they will do it. Trust me, believe me, that's the mindset of a hacker. So I think the people from the Interpol in that case will never forget that they will remember, they will always remember that, okay, why did we arrest this person? We were so unlucky. And I thought at that moment, I am so unlucky, but no, life is a circle and then things turn. And that is not the end, Bryce, because that happened at the beginning of 2022, January the 1st, that effective all these changes were coming in Uruguay. And then you interviewed me for the radio at the end of January. You were the first person that knew about this outcome, but that didn't end there. I was contacted in January of this year by this person, this woman in this group of digital rights and human rights in Uruguay. And well, this year, Uruguay as part of I don't know how it's called in English, it's like el Tratado de Gibraltar, the Gibraltar agreement or something like that. Basically, it's okay. The country should follow certain, I don't know, when it comes to crimes and other things. Okay, they have to follow certain criteria. Okay, if you're part of that group of the treatment of Gibraltar, you cannot be a country that, okay, child pornography is not being prosecuted or is not being, no, you have to, okay, all these kind of things should be followed by the legal system of the country. And that includes crimes related to technology. Okay, they contacted me this year, the people from Digital Rights, and they told me, Alberto, Uruguay this year is going to adopt this. We have seen the work of the people in the Congress, the people that are writing the laws, and it's terrible. It's a disaster. It's going to ruin all the people in cybersecurity are going to be really screwed up by this. It's terrible. So we are starting this project that we're going to present in the parliament here in Uruguay in order to show, okay, all the problems that what they're writing that right now is going to create instead of solving. And you know what, Alberto? We need to show why we're saying this. You know what? Your case, I know, my case. Yeah, your case, Alberto, is the perfect example that we're willing to use in order to go and talk to the Congress of Uruguay about this particular thing that is Uruguay entering into the Tratado de Gibraltar, translated to English, to whatever it is. And they told me, Alberto, we want you to be part of those conversations and we want you to talk to them about your experience. So, yeah, can you believe that, Bryce? You didn't know that. Yeah. How you do?
Wow. No, this is new information. I thought I had the latest information. That's so now. So the guy that they threw in prison is now going to be the one advising on how you have to do things in the future. That's the story. It just has so many twists. That's crazy.
I thought it was said with that interview for the radio. That was it. Okay, I have done it. I know, Alberto. No, it's not over yet, Alberto. You have still to continue, Alberto. It's not over. And now I said, okay, I'm aware of this. Okay, I know many things more are coming. Okay, I accept that. I mean, with the feet on the floor, I'm still Alberto. I'm still the same person I was before this. I mean, yeah, I'm not bragging about anything. I'm just a person like any. Yeah, I just have certain visibility. I was able to change certain things, but anybody could have done, not me. I mean, everybody has the determination that they really want to do it, and they are willing to spend a lot of time because you have to deal with frustration, with, okay, yeah, it's a lot of effort. It's not easy, but you can do it. You have just to pay certain price, and it's not for you. The reward is not. Yeah, the reward is not for you at the end. You have to be aware that the reward is not for you. You don't get any price for nothing. They don't give you a check for $1 million as the Guinness World Record. The price is for the people, the people that are part of the system. Those, the reward is for them. So it's not for you. So, and yeah, you have to know that. And so how many people are willing to give up everything in their life for that, for helping other people? I'm not bragging about that.
Yeah, that's what your story is, right? And we're here at the end. We're going to go to Brendan here in just 1 second and try to close it out. Is that if you follow this arc, and it's a nice long conversation for a podcast, but it's a good one. It's an important story of being at a certain point where you think you were at the highest of highs, losing that based on the world's way of valuing things, and then having to reset and dig deep within, right, and find out what are your virtues, what are the values you're going to live your life, and what is really important, but still having patience and believing in doing the virtuous thing, what's right, and continuing to believe that, you'll get heard and having that patience, right, that temperance. And eventually it starts to pick up to a point now where you're actually changing the system yourself, the guy who was a prisoner, and rebuilding his life. And it's still a slow process, and you haven't completely got everything right worked out, but it's been heading in such positive directions. You want to say, Brendan, you had a
Yeah, Alberto, this has been an absolutely amazing story. I'm so honored that you came here today to share this with us. It's so inspiring, and just a story of grit and resiliency and courage. To go from that place of shivering in that jail cell to now you're helping actually change the system that impacted you so much. That's such an amazing story, and I love it because it's just a good reminder for even myself, just in those moments, like, if I'm sitting in traffic and a little upset, there's always something going on that's worse outside of that. So just a good reminder to me. So what message do you want the listeners to walk away from your story? What do you want them to take?
Well,
from your experience?
actually, I think that, if I have to tell people one piece of advice when it comes to things that happen to you unexpected and are like, oh, so terrible, I think that probably most of the situations like that, for you might be terrible, but having being able to quickly identify from another perspective that terrible situation, what opportunities are opening for you, is the key. In my case, I was sent to prison. I lost everything. I could have just said F and could have probably applied for working in a supermarket or going programming for cents in certain language for a company in another country, and just try to forget about it because might be ashamed of that because I was arrested and prison for the crime. I'm a criminal. I'm not a criminal, but basically the system stamped that I was a criminal, and I'm ashamed of that. But this is so terrible. This is my life that is so pathetic. Why this is happening to me? Well, Bryce always says, bad things happen to people, good things happen to bad people. That is life. That's it. That is accepted. It is exactly like that. So, welcome. I mean, that comes with life. That is part of life. So, I'm sorry, you cannot change that. If you do the right good things, you are a good person, that doesn't mean you are going to get great things. No, the life is not like that. So, adapt, change, shit happens. So, but from that shit, try to see how can you actually see opportunity from there. It's all about perspective. If you are focused basically in some direction, visualizing the hell, well, all you have to do is turn around a little bit, move your head, and maybe in another perspective, that hell is like, oh no, it's not hell. It's actually the Aruba. Oh my God, let's go to Aruba. You have to just change, try to see from all the angles that situation that is, it's a point of inflection of the life of everybody, but it can be a good point of inflection for positive things, or it can ruin your life, as I said, I could be working right now in a supermarket, not to talk about that it's bad to work in that position, but saying that I could be feeling miserable, complaining about everything, saying, why do I have such a bad luck? It's not about luck. Luck is finding a good place to park your car in the shopping mall. That is luck. There's no luck. There's a lot of heavy work and determination and knowing what you want and adapting to the changes that happen in life. Right now, you might be going in certain direction, and basically, a shura can pass over you, and you like Alice in Wonderland being thrown, and you wake up in another place. Okay, adapt quickly, see the opportunities, and move on. I learned that those feelings of anger and hate that I had in the past, that right now I don't remember actually why I felt so angry and hate, so much hate, because right now I really don't feel no hard feelings for anybody. Those feelings of hate actually right now are feelings of love for other things. I just know I'm full of feelings of love in life. I don't have money. I don't have, I don't know, my mental health is struggling with that. I'm struggling with that. I'm struggling with economic. I'm struggling in a lot of things, but I'm happy. I feel love. I'm not a person with $10 million that is miserable, that is full of hate. No, I don't feel hate for anybody. I'm happy with life. I'm very grateful. You know what? Two things. I wrote that book, Loving to Hell, about my story that Bryce mentioned. And you know what? I don't believe in accident. No, this is something amazing. Somebody bought that book. A person in another place of the world bought that book. Okay, and that person took a picture, was excited, and took a picture of the book and posted it in Twitter and tagged me. And I said, wow, amazing, thank you. And I retweeted that, and then the person messaged me, and I realized I didn't reply to the person, but then I don't know what happened, that I saw another tweet from the person regarding to my story, and I tried to message the person, and I thought, wow, this person had messaged me before and I didn't reply. Well, that person is a woman who is in Europe right now, and she's coming to visit me shortly. And I am in love right now, deeply in love with her. It's a beautiful, it's a feeling that I hadn't felt for many, many, many years. I thought that I would never be feeling this again in my life, and I am feeling it. It's like magical. But the latest thing I want to mention is my mother is another story running in parallel, because all of this, I mean, would never have happened if it wasn't because of the love of a mother for a son, and doing everything she could with with no help of anybody, in silence. Nobody ever talked about my mother during all this process. Nobody knew about they probably read that, my mother probably visited me to breathe, I don't know, but nobody actually knew that the thing that my mother was doing during all this time. My mother is actually paying for my bills right now. Still, I'm not kidding, and I'm not ashamed of saying that. I'm not ashamed of anything. I'm not proud of anything as well, but I'm happy for many things, and I see the positive elements in everything. Why focus on things that are negative, that lead you to nothing? I want to be happy in my life, and despite of my depression that I'm treated, and despite of my bankruptcy, despite of many things, I am happy. I am in love. I have my mother that is alive. She was diagnosed with cancer while I was in prison. She didn't tell me anything. She went through the process of radiotherapy on her own. And I said I was aware of that in December of 2017. And that is the person who is the hero of all these stories, my mother. So at the end, it's not a person who is so burned with anger that leaves the prison and wanting to change the world no, it's the love of a mother in silence that made all this possible. So that is that is basically the point of all this that nobody knows. No, it's the love of a mother for a child in silence, doing things that nobody heard that made all these changes possible. It wasn't me. I'm not the hero. I'm just another guy. I'm not the hero at all. It's my mother is the hero.
There's a lot of, and we're going to round out the conversation here. It's an amazing. So there's a lot of heroes here. I think, Alberto, you've done your job. And just the next book should be maybe the restoration of Alberto, right? And there's the part up to prison and then exiting prison, and then your life starts anew. And it's been a slow process, and I appreciate your being candid and saying that, you still have struggles. And this is the message to everyone out there. It's like the rebuild can be slow, but I don't think Alberto's going to have money problems in the future when somebody picks up the story and makes it into a film, a small film, or a mini series or something. It's such an amazing story of the kind of resilience and this slow redemption, right? You have to hang in there to the point where, he's being restored. Even his relationship that he thought that he lost before, that he could never find again, that he's found it through his book, through his story, through spreading his information out and being received. It's incredible. And it's like, there's new developments all the time. And I did learn a new nugget today, and that's great. And it's like, it's still more coming, right? But that you're hearing you laugh, Alberto, and knowing you the way that I do, and the happiness that you have is an amazing thing. Maybe happiness you have now that's so pure that not since I've known you have I heard you this happy. So I'm so happy for you, and I'm so happy that you spent time to come talk to us today.
No, thank you guys. Thank you for letting me share this. And basically, if I could do this, that I didn't do it with my mother, anybody can do it. So, anybody. I mean, if we complain about the world, okay, don't complain. You probably can do things that, if you really want to change the world, I think that most of the people actually can do it. So don't complain. Look at the positive side of things. Life is too short. Enjoy it as much as possible. Don't complain for what you don't have. Be happy for what you have and enjoy life. And that's it.
Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, rating, and leaving a review. Your feedback will help us reach more like-minded people on this journey to self-improvement. If you want to get in touch with us or find more information, you can go to streetstoics.com, which is brought to you by Via Stoica, your place and community for a more tranquil life. You can find more on viastoica.com. And remember, virtue is the only good.